Let's talk about the concept of flexibility in the supply chain. If you look at the manufacturing end of it, and of course now instead of the push-pull method, we're looking at the push method as you push things through the supply chain. You have a company that are out there manufacturing a product on an assembly line or a production line, and so it's going through their entire system. We want to add flexibility to it. Can we add two products to it? Can we add three? Can we sit down and have a whole series of mass customization to sit down and have one product like this and the next one like this? The answer is yes, but it takes a little bit of planning ahead of time and some thinking as to how we can streamline that entire process. Flexibility is about the ability to respond to change without increasing operational or supply chain costs or with little or no delay in response time. So, in other words, doing more with the same. If you can pull that off, you're going to be a miracle worker no matter where you're at, and people will be paying attention to what you're doing because of the fact you can crank out more goods, your overall cost of goods will drop, and you can actually retain more profit or even drop the price for your consumers. That almost never happens, but just in case you want to try that. So change in demand, volume, and mix, commodity pricing, labor costs, exchange rates, technology, equipment availability, or any other change. And that really is why we have so much of our economy. It's an 80-20 economy, 80% service sector, 20% manufacturing, because the manufacturers have moved a lot of operations outside of the United States into other countries where the basic thing, your labor cost, is much cheaper. Why should you be paying somebody $22 an hour plus benefits at 40%? So you're paying about $28 an hour to $30 an hour just for the labor cost, when by golly, you can go to another nation and get exactly the same thing for $4 an hour. All of a sudden you have this big difference, but you pay a price. You pay a price over the aspect of you lose American jobs, and that is what this is about. The supply chain is actually trying to deliver the most you can for the least amount of money. So with that said, let's explore some opportunities that are sitting out here. You get three of the most critical performance measures. The customer experience. What is the customer looking for from your service or from your product? Also look at the aspect of operational costs and the business response time. Can reduce any one of those three or improve the customer experience or improve the speed of the business response time. All of a sudden you achieve flexibility, but how much? Because no matter what happens, you start injecting flexibility into the supply chain. It's not free. There's going to be a cost, either a capital cost up front or an overall per unit cost. So we'll look at that aspect of it. So it's difficult to change once you make a decision. Once you decide you're going to put an entire line over here, then the line has 17 different machines on it. And you just can't snap your fingers and move it across the plant to make it more efficient. It's going to cost you time, it's going to cost money, and it's going to cost downtime on top of that as well. So we're going to look at three different arrangements as for five plants and five different products. One, each plant only produces one single product. Well, okay, that's easy to do. You can easily figure out how to go about doing that. But let's add a little bit of flexibility. Let's each plant produces two products. Okay, you can do that. It's not that hard, but can you sit down and do it on the same assembly line? Can you have your workers go through and build widget A, and then all of a sudden a widget B comes along and they scratch their head saying, wait a minute, I need to get parts for this one, and this machine doesn't. Okay, can you do them both? Can you have a rapid change between the machinery? Can you cross-train your workers? And then full flexibility, each plant produces each one of the products. And you got five plants, five products. Can you have each plant produce that? If you can, then all of a sudden you change your entire operations, you change your cost overall, you change your transportation. You might have five different geographic plants, and if all of a sudden now you can produce all five different products at all five plants, your transportation cost is going to be a lot cheaper. You're not having plant A in California delivering stuff over here in Maryland. You have really Maryland producing its own things and delivering that locally, so you can have five different aspects. Your distribution system becomes much, much cheaper. There's a lot of benefit in having full flexibility, but there's a lot of cost up front and a lot of planning. Each plant right now is responsible for just one product family, and you can crank out the lot sizes as big as you want, whatever the limit is on your plant itself. And when you start having multiple different aspects of it, if you have 5 different products coming out, you have to have 5 different packaging capacities, 5 different shipping aspects of it. You have to have a much more intelligent system on shipping because of the fact you got 5 products going out, and it'll be much more confusing. With one, there's few or no setups because you have the machine set for one exactly thing, one exact product. You have low manufacturing costs, but you may have high transportation costs because your plant in California may have a hard time shipping things all the way to Maryland, all the way to Miami, all the way to Houston, all the way to Chicago, and so on. So you have the higher transportation costs. And if you had your Chicago plant making the same product at the same time, all of a sudden everything locally in Chicago is delivered relatively quickly, and actually the time to get from Chicago to Maryland is much easier. So you have a lot of different sets you can actually change. If you add total flexibility where every plant can make all the products that you make in the process, lot sizes that will be smaller, you're going to have a lot more different setups. The time to set up a machine to do this thing, to cut this way and this thing and drill a hole this way and this size. Okay, now you're going away from having that only one thing is all we got to do. The guy shows up for work and they make the product. But now all of a sudden now you have to have people that are trained and skilled as to how to change the tooling and to set up in a super fast way to make sure you can have product 2 come on and then product 3. So really the full flexibility, there's higher manufacturing costs, but lower transportation costs. Do they weigh out in the process? Is it cheaper to sit down there and start building in high flexibility? And then if you have 5 plants going, all of a sudden now you change your whole geographic dispersion of your products in the real world out there. Each plant, if you kick it up that can produce exactly 2 product families, you're going to increase manufacturing costs. Okay, but you compare to full flexibility, not as much as that, but it's not going to be the low, you're not going to have the whole issue of the aspect of only one product. Now, all of a sudden, if all 5 plants, they're cranking out 2 products, it's going to reduce your transportation costs, which today that could be a really big issue. So it depends what you want, but the end flexibility is the ultimate. This is really, if you look on this is the ultimate. Do you want to have the ultimate? You're going to pay more money. Okay, but you have a lot more flexibility. Is it worth it? That's what you're supposed to find out because you're the one in charge of the supply chain. So by the time you're all done, one product, one line, it's wonderful until you want more. Then it's not so efficient, handy, and nice. Flexibility calls for compromise, but not necessarily on quality. Flexibility in the supply chain, this is really the ultimate aspect. If you can do end flexibility, in other words, as many iterations as you possibly can, and be as flexible and crank out all the products your company makes at one plant or all your plants, that is the ultimate aspect of flexibility in the supply chain. Take care.